Hi, I'm Riley Monroe. And no, I'm not the kind of person who slams doors or raises hell, but there's something about betrayal, the quiet kind, the kind that's framed as love, that turns silence into the loudest answer you can give. It started at a dinner table. Not just any dinner, it was supposed to be a celebration. My brother Tyler had just closed on his first house. My mom insisted on throwing something intimate. Just family, just Camilla. Just one lie away from complete destruction. The table was set in a way only my mother knew how. Too perfect, too symmetrical, too forced. I've always said our family dinners felt more like performance art than connection. Everything had a role. Every chair had a script. Every eye roll had its place. And for years I played mine without complaint. Until that night. Camilla sat next to Tyler, smiling in that soft, steady way she does. The kind of smile that doesn't need to be loud to be real. I liked her. Actually, I respected her. She didn't flatter my mom. She didn't flinch under my dad's silences. She looked Tyler in the eye when he spoke and made him laugh without trying, which in our family meant she had already overstepped. And my mother? My mother was watching her like a lioness watches a gazelle that dared cross too close. Dinner started well enough. Chicken with rosemary, wine flowing, fake laughter in the air like air freshener covering something rotten. But by dessert, I knew what was coming. Mom poured herself a second glass, fingers slow and deliberate. Her voice, as always, came wrapped in honey and hidden blades. I heard from someone, she began, swirling her glass, that Camilla's been busy with someone who isn't Tyler. The silence landed hard. My brother blinked. What? Mom smiled, tilted her head. I'm not saying anything for sure, but you deserve honesty, Ty, don't you think? Camilla froze. Excuse me? I have proof, Mom said, reaching for her phone. Messages. A transfer of $5,000 to a private account. Do you want to see it? She slid the phone across the table. Tyler picked it up. His face tightened. Camilla? But I had already seen that screenshot earlier that week. Mom had shown me in private, triumphant. I remember the thrill in her voice. You should talk to Tyler, she'd said. Help him see the truth. But it wasn't truth. I checked the metadata. The timestamp was forged. The sender ID didn't match. The entire conversation was a stitch-up. A Frankenstein monster of old text strings, out-of-context phrases, and Mom's personal theater production. So I said it. It's fake, I said, loud enough that the room flinched. Mom made it. Tyler looked up. What? She used an editing app. The sender ID is wrong. The timestamps don't match. She even forgot to change the time zone metadata. It's fake, Tyler. My mom's eyes narrowed. Her smile vanished like a candle snuffed by wind. Excuse me? You heard me. Camilla was still frozen. Her hands had curled into fists in her lap. Tyler stared at the phone, then at Mom, then at me. You're siding with her? Mom's voice cracked. I'm siding with the truth. She's manipulating him, Mom hissed. She's lying to his face and you're enabling her. No, I said. You're trying to control him. Again. My dad cleared his throat like he wanted to say something, but didn't. That was his usual role. The quiet wall that backed her up without ever raising a hand. Mom stood slowly, deliberately. She picked up her wineglass, took a sip, then placed it down. If you walk out of this house with her, Riley, you're no longer part of this family. The words fell like a knife that had been waiting to be drawn. And for the first time in years, I didn't flinch. Then maybe I never was. I stood. Camilla looked at me, shocked. She hadn't expected backup. She'd expected exile. Let's go, I said. She hesitated, then stood too. Tyler didn't move, didn't speak. His face was pale, like someone just told him gravity was a lie. We walked out, just like that. No screaming, no tears, just two women walking out of a house that had turned itself into a cage. That night, I didn't cry. I sat in my car with the windows down and the cold November air biting at my skin. I stared at the dashboard clock like it might offer answers. It didn't. Camilla sat beside me, quiet. She hadn't said much since we left. Her hands were in her lap, still curled. I don't know why you did that, she said finally. But thank you. I nodded. You didn't deserve what she did. She turned to look at me. Neither did you. I laughed. It came out bitter. That's just how my mom loves. If you're not her puppet, you're her enemy. Camilla didn't say anything, and neither did I. But in that silence, I made a decision. I wasn't going to just walk away this time. Not like I did when she drove away someone I loved years ago. Not like I did every time she lied, twisted, and smiled her way into people's minds. She crossed a line, and this time I was going to drag it into the light. Have you ever been forced to choose between truth and family? The morning after the dinner, I woke up on Camilla's couch with a crick in my neck and a weight in my chest that didn't belong to sleep. Her apartment was small, clean, but lived in, with warm light filtering through sheer curtains and a stack of library books on the coffee table. Everything about her space felt like her, quiet, thoughtful, and entirely undeserving of what my mother had done. She was in the kitchen barefoot, making coffee. She looked over her shoulder as I sat up. I didn't make tea. Hope you're okay with bitter. I'm used to bitter, I said, and she cracked a smile. I accepted the mug and we sat for a minute, saying nothing. The silence wasn't awkward. It was restorative. After years of watching my mother twist every silence into a threat, this one felt like permission to breathe. Camilla was the first to break it. So what now? I didn't answer right away. Because the truth was, I didn't know. I'd walked out, burned the bridge. But what did you do when the house you burned was also the one that raised you? Finally, I said, I want to find out what else she's done. Camilla blinked. To me? To all of us. She didn't respond immediately, just looked down into her coffee like it might offer a map. I'm not surprised, she said eventually, but I think I was hoping you'd be wrong, or exaggerating. She's done this before, I said, to someone I loved. Camilla looked up. Who? I hesitated. His name was Jonah. He was the first person who made me feel like I wasn't performing all the time. We'd met in college. He was calm, grounded, a little bit quiet, but when he spoke, people listened. He listened. He used to call me gravity, said I kept him steady, but in the end, I couldn't keep him safe from my mother. She didn't like him, I said he was too soft, that he'd hold me back. Camilla leaned forward. What did she do? She told him I cheated on him. Her eyes widened. Made up messages, showed him screenshots, even paid someone to call him and say they saw me with someone else. He never even told me, just left a note. I didn't find out until 2 years later. Camilla's lips parted, but no words came. I know what you're thinking, I said, half laughing. It sounds insane. No, she said, it sounds like her. And that's when I knew we weren't the only ones. That day I called in sick to work and drove straight to my parents' house. I didn't plan to go inside. I just wanted to watch, to see how quickly the story was changing now that I'd broken character. I parked 2 houses down, watched the curtains twitch, watched my dad's car leave for work. Then I saw it, my mom, standing in the driveway, talking to someone. It was Tyler. His arms were folded, his head tilted in that confused, lost way he always had when things didn't add up. And she was talking, fast, using her hands, the way she did when she needed to paint herself as the victim in a mural of betrayal. She touched his arm. He stepped back. It wasn't working. Not this time. Back in my apartment that evening, I opened the box I hadn't touched in years, the one labeled, Not Yet. Inside were printouts, text messages, screenshots, a photo of the note Jonah left. I'd kept them all. Not because I was holding on to pain, but because I didn't want to forget how truth gets erased when no one fights for it. And at the bottom of the box, something I'd nearly forgotten, the USB stick. Back when it happened, I'd suspected Mom, but I had no proof. Until I found her old iPad in the guest room, synced to her iCloud account. The messages weren't deleted, just archived. The photos were still there. One was of Jonah, standing in front of a coffee shop, cropped to make it look like he was holding hands with someone else, a total stranger. She'd shown him that photo, said I was meeting someone behind his back. I'd kept it, because it was the moment my trust in her shattered, but I didn't have the courage to confront her then. Now I did. The next morning I emailed Jonah. I didn't even know if he'd reply. We hadn't spoken in 5 years, but I found his LinkedIn. He still lived in the city, still looked exactly the same. Thoughtful eyes, a little older, a little more guarded. My message was short. Hi, I know this is unexpected, but I need to tell you something. It's about what happened between us. It was never true, and I can prove it. He replied that night. Let's talk. I always wondered if something didn't add up. We met at a bookstore cafe near the university. I got there early, hands shaking around my cup. When he walked in, he paused like he wasn't sure I'd really be there. Hey, he said, almost like a question. Hey. We sat. There was a moment, 10 seconds maybe, where neither of us spoke, and then I handed him the USB. He plugged it into his laptop, watched silently, scrolled through the old screenshots, read the metadata I'd annotated. When he finished, he sat back. She really did all this. I nodded. She did worse. He looked at me. I'm sorry, he said, for not trusting you. I don't blame you. I blamed myself for a long time, for walking away. I smiled, and it felt like closing a chapter that had never quite ended. You weren't the only one she hurt, I said, but you're the first one who came back. Back at home, I sat down with my laptop and opened a new folder. The archive. I started gathering. Camilla's forged messages, Jonah's old screenshots, metadata from every photo my mother had weaponized. I made timelines, labeled evidence, created a backup on a separate drive. I wasn't going to burn her life down. I was going to prove she set the fire. The next day, Tyler showed up at my door. He looked tired, but not broken. I don't know what to believe anymore, he said, standing in the doorway like a kid who got lost in a store. I know. She said Camilla was lying, but then she said you were lying. But you didn't lie about Jonah. I didn't answer. He stepped inside. I don't think I ever really questioned her, he said. I just believed whatever made the most sense at the time. She makes lies feel like truth, I said. That's her gift. He looked at me. What do we do? I showed him the archive, all of it. By the time he finished reading, he looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 hours. I want to confront her, he said, but not like this, not yet. Then wait, I said. But when you do it on your own terms. Later that night, Camilla texted me. You've already done more for me than anyone. Just promise me something. What? Promise you won't let her rewrite your story again. Camilla didn't speak for a full minute after Tyler left. She sat on the edge of the couch, shoulders squared, staring at the wall like it owed her answers. Her hands were clasped so tightly, her knuckles had gone white. You okay? I asked gently. She nodded, but didn't move, so I waited. Sometimes people don't need help standing up. They just need someone not to walk away. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, controlled. There's something I didn't tell him. I leaned forward slowly. About what? About my past, about my family. I didn't say anything. She needed space, not questions. Camilla exhaled, then turned to face me. My mom was sick, she said. When I was in high school, early onset dementia. I took care of her until she forgot who I was. My stomach tightened. Camilla, you don't owe me. I do, she interrupted. I owe someone the truth. Because if your mom finds out before Tyler does, it's going to sound like I was hiding something. She wasn't wrong. I dropped out of college twice trying to take care of her. Worked 3 jobs to pay for her meds. My credit's a mess. There was a time I couldn't afford rent, and I moved in with someone I didn't love, just so we'd have heat, food. Her voice cracked at the edges, but she pulled it back with surgical precision. She died 2 years ago, and I promised myself I'd never let anyone carry me again. That's why I never told Tyler. I didn't want to come with a file folder full of trauma. I just wanted a clean beginning. I didn't speak. I knew better than to rush this part. But if your mother finds any of that, she added, she'll twist it, turn it into proof I'm a leech, that I'm unstable, that I'm... She won't, I said. Camilla looked at me like she wasn't sure she believed that. I wasn't sure either, but I said it anyway. Tell Tyler, I added, on your terms. Her eyes dropped to her lap. Do you think he'll look at me differently? I thought of my brother's face the night she stood up for herself, the way he hesitated, the way he wanted to believe in her, but wasn't raised to trust anything that didn't come pre-approved by Mom. I think if he doesn't, I said, you'll know who he really is. The next day, I got a call from Aunt Marlene. Now my family doesn't do casual calls. We don't do check-ins or thinking of yous. We do announcements, requests, warnings. This one was a warning. Your mother's been talking, she said. Of course she had. She's saying Camilla's manipulating you, that she has a history of using people for money, that she's got something to hide. I closed my eyes. Of course she found the hospital bills, the rental history, maybe even a credit report. It didn't matter what Camilla actually did. To Mom, it only mattered how it looked. She says you're turning into a stranger, Marlene added, voice tight. I didn't change, I said. I just stopped playing the role. Marlene was quiet for a second. Do you want me to talk to her? No, let her talk. Let her spin the story. The more she talks, the more obvious it gets. You're not afraid of her anymore, are you? I wasn't sure if it was a compliment or a diagnosis. No, I said, but she should be afraid of herself. 2 days later, Camilla met with Tyler. She didn't tell me where or how. Just texted me 3 words afterward. He knows now. I didn't press. I trusted her to handle it. Something I never thought I'd say about someone dragged through my mother's fire. But that night, I got a knock at my door. Tyler. He didn't look angry. He looked broken. I didn't know she went through all that, he said, barely above a whisper. She told me about her mom, about the debt, the guy she lived with. I nodded, motioned for him to sit. He didn't. I realized something, he said. Every woman in my life has had to apologize for surviving. That stopped me. I always thought I was being supportive, he continued. But I was just letting Mom decide what support looked like, and anything that didn't match, she labeled it manipulation. He looked up at me. She told me you were jealous. Of what? Of her relationship with me, of Camilla, that you were trying to punish her. I laughed, a quiet, exhausted laugh. That sounds about right. She's coming apart, he added. People are starting to notice. Good. I think she's scared. She should be. That weekend, my mom hosted a family brunch, unannounced, last minute. The kind that's optional, but not really. One of those classic Monroe affairs where no one eats much, but everyone leaves starving. I wasn't invited, but I went. Camilla came with me. We didn't dress up. We didn't bring wine. We didn't play the game. When we walked in, the room paused. My mother stood by the window, wine glass in hand, wearing that shade of lipstick she saved for declarations. Well, she said coolly, didn't think you'd show. Camilla smiled. Funny, I was just thinking the same thing. There it was. The flicker. Mom turned to me. I see you've chosen your side. I stepped forward. No, I just stopped pretending yours was the only one. She looked at me like I'd spit on the rug. I tried to warn you, she said, about her, about what she is. No, I said. You tried to recreate me, again, but I don't live in your stories anymore. I reached into my coat pocket and handed her an envelope. What is this? A copy of every lie you told, backed up, annotated, time-stamped. Her hand trembled slightly, but she caught it quickly. You think anyone's going to believe your little conspiracy folder? No, I said. I think they're going to believe you. Because you've told so many stories you don't remember which version you're in anymore. The silence that followed was the first honest one I'd ever seen in that house. I turned to leave. Camilla followed. But just as I reached the door, my father, who hadn't said a word all night, stood up. Wait, I turned, slowly. He looked at my mother, then at me. I believe her, he said. And for the first time in my life, he wasn't talking to my mom. What happens when the truth walks in, and no one remembers how to lie anymore? I found out through HR that my mother had called them. It wasn't formal, not at first. Just an anonymous voicemail left on our company ethics line. A woman claiming concern for a certain employee's judgment, referencing family instability, emotional outbursts, and something she called a pattern of deception. They traced the call anyway. Company protocol. It came from my parents' landline. I was sitting across from my boss, Carla, when I heard the recording. She didn't tell me who it was. She didn't have to. The voice was unmistakable, calm, measured, fake concern delivered with surgical precision, like a performance she'd rehearsed, like it wasn't the first time. I looked at Carla. She looked back at me, not angry, not suspicious, but watchful. "Do I need to be worried?" she asked. I didn't lie. My mother's upset that I don't lie for her anymore. This is her version of punishment. Carla nodded, slowly. "I figured," she said. "We get calls like this now and then, usually from exes, rarely from moms." She didn't smile when she said that, and neither did I. "I'll document it," she continued. "But I trust your work. Just let me know if she escalates." "She will," I said. "That's what she does." I didn't cry in the car. I've learned not to give her that much. But when I walked into my apartment, I sat down on the floor, back against the door, and stared at nothing for 10 straight minutes. Not because I was sad, because I was tired. Of always being the one who had to prove I wasn't crazy. Of constantly cleaning up a mess I didn't make. Of watching her try to rewrite who I was. And almost succeeding. Camilla came over later with takeout and a bottle of wine we both knew we wouldn't drink. She took one look at me and didn't say a word. Just handed me a container of pad thai and sat beside me on the couch. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. Lied. She let it slide. But her hand reached over and wrapped around mine. "She called your job, didn't she?" I nodded again. Jesus. She used a fake voice. I guess that counts as effort. Camilla didn't laugh. Neither did I. "What now?" she asked. "I don't know," I said. "But I'm starting to think silence isn't enough." That weekend, I got a text from my cousin Ava. "Hey, you okay? Your mom told everyone you had a breakdown." Of course she did. She said you screamed at her, that you threatened the family, that you're seeing someone who manipulates you. I stared at my screen. That was the moment it clicked. This wasn't about Camilla anymore. It wasn't even about me. It was about control, and when control fails, she replaces it with destruction. I didn't respond to Ava. Instead, I called Jonah. Not because I needed comfort, but because he was the one person who understood the before. "I need your help," I said. He didn't hesitate. We met at the same cafe as before. I slid a manila folder across the table. Inside were selected pieces of the archive. Not the full burn book, just the parts that showed a pattern. "I want this to get out," I said. "You sure?" "I don't need revenge," I said. "But I need her to stop, and people won't stop listening to her until they hear something louder." He thumbed through the folder, paused at the old email she'd sent him from a fake account. The subject line, "I thought you deserved to know who she really is." "She tried to destroy everything I had," I said, "but I'm not doing this to retaliate. I'm doing it so she finally runs out of places to hide." Jonah looked up. "Who do you want to leak it?" "I don't care, as long as it doesn't come from me." On Monday, the first file hit Reddit. By Tuesday, someone forwarded it to my aunt. By Wednesday, a version of it was floating around Facebook, with names removed, but details obvious enough. The caption? "What do you do when the most dangerous person in your life calls you daughter?" I didn't post it, but I watched it burn. And then she called. I let it ring, then she texted. "You've always been cruel, but this is monstrous. I hope you know what you've done." I stared at the screen for a long time, then replied with 4 words. "You taught me well." What I didn't expect was the fallout. The file had names, not just hers. Stories from other people, family, friends, old acquaintances. Stories I didn't collect, but someone else did. Maybe Camilla, maybe Ava, maybe someone I never even met. They started sharing too, things I didn't know. Like how Mom lied to my aunt about a fake hospital bill just to guilt her into paying rent. How she told my dad's boss that his coworker was having an affair so she could get him transferred. She'd built her life on chess moves no one saw, and now the whole board was lit up. 3 days later, Tyler showed up again. This time he wasn't alone. He brought Dad, and Dad looked like he hadn't slept. "She said you tried to ruin her," he said, "that you exposed our private life." "I didn't," I said, "but I stopped protecting her." He sat down, slow, heavy. I thought she was dramatic, not dangerous. You don't have to pick sides, I said. I already did, he replied. I just didn't realize it until now. Then he looked me in the eyes, the same way I used to look at him, waiting for protection. I'm sorry, he said. It wasn't enough, but it was something. That night, Camilla's phone rang. She froze. Put it on speaker. It was her ex. I saw your name in that post, he said. I didn't know what you were going through back then. I just thought you ghosted me. I never knew your mom was sick. Camilla didn't say a word. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, for not asking, for assuming. I hope you're okay. She hung up, then sat there in silence, eyes closed, a single tear slipping down her cheek. Not sadness, not shame, just release. What happens when the truth sets you free, but takes everything else with it? The envelope arrived on a Thursday. No name, no return address, just my full name typed cleanly across the front like it belonged on a courtroom docket. I opened it slowly, already bracing for what I thought it might be. But I wasn't ready for what it actually was, a cease and desist letter from my mother, accusing me of defamation, of emotional distress, of spreading fabricated stories that damaged her reputation and family standing. I reread the line about character assassination at least 5 times. Not because I was confused, because I couldn't believe how calm I felt. She wasn't trying to sue me, not really. She was trying to scare me into silence. Again. The paper wasn't her weapon. The implication was. Camilla picked it up after I dropped it on the table. Is she serious? She's serious about not losing, I said. That's all she's ever been serious about. You think she'll follow through? I shook my head. She doesn't want court, she wants control, and she's running out of ways to get it. Camilla sat down beside me, slowly, like her body was carrying something heavy. She's cornered. And she's lashing out, I finished. But the part I didn't say, the part I barely wanted to admit, was that it wasn't just a threat, it was a test. She was waiting to see if I'd blink. 3 days later, Camilla found something. We'd gone back to my parents' house, not to confront, not to provoke, but to retrieve boxes Tyler had left behind. My mother was away with friends, according to the note she left on the counter. But the house still smelled like her. Lemon polish and tension. We weren't looking for anything, just moving fast, until Camilla pulled a manila folder from the back of the office filing cabinet. It was labeled with a single word, estate. She opened it, stopped breathing. Riley. I looked over her shoulder. Inside was a copy of a will, dated 5 years ago, signed by my grandfather, stamped by a local notary, legally valid. And in it, Tyler was named sole inheritor of a second property, a lake house, one we all thought had been sold. It hadn't. It had just vanished from conversation. I thought she said Grandpa left everything to her, I whispered. Camilla didn't answer, because the truth was staring back at us in black and white. She hid this, I said. She buried it. Why? Control. If Tyler never knew he owned the place, he'd never try to claim it. And she could keep using it, renting it, living in it even, and no one would question it. We sat there in silence, surrounded by old furniture and even older lies. Then I said the one thing we both knew was coming. She's not just manipulative, she's stolen from her own son. That night, Tyler met us at Camilla's apartment. We didn't hand him the will. We didn't dramatize it. We let him read it. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he put the paper down, rubbed his face, and said, She used to take my allowance and say she was saving it for me. She'd hand me $5 and call it responsible parenting. I didn't think twice. Camilla reached out to him, but he didn't move. She kept the lake house to herself, he continued. Used it for those solo retreats she took, the ones we thought were therapy weekends. I didn't say anything, because what do you say when someone realizes their childhood was a long, slow gaslight? The next day, the second wave hit. My HR manager called me in again. This time, she said gently, it's not anonymous. She handed me an email, forwarded from a concerned family member. My mother's name was right there at the bottom. In the email, she claimed I'd been unstable at work, that I'd targeted coworkers, that I had a history of vengeful behavior rooted in unresolved trauma. Carla sighed. Normally, we wouldn't even entertain this, but the board wants documentation. Because of the Reddit post? She nodded. She's not just trying to discredit me, I said. She's trying to make sure if I go down, I stay down. Carla looked at me, thoughtful. Do you want to take a leave of absence? I shook my head. That's exactly what she wants, to make me look like I broke. Then what do you want, Riley? I didn't answer for a moment. Then I looked her dead in the eye and said, I want her to stop writing the narrative. I drove to the lake house the next morning. I needed to see it. Camilla came with me, quiet, supportive. Tyler stayed behind. He said he needed time. I didn't push. The house was still there, tucked behind trees, just far enough from the main road to stay invisible. It looked exactly like I remembered. Gray siding, chipped window panes, the wind chime Mom always insisted was spiritual. But now I saw it for what it was. A symbol of every secret she kept behind a polished smile. We didn't go inside, just stood at the edge of the porch, the key still in my hand. She lived a whole life here, Camilla whispered, while pretending to be overworked and underappreciated. She wanted to be a martyr and a queen, I said, and she couldn't be both unless we played along. And that's when I knew what had to happen next. She needed to be confronted, but not in private, not in whispers, not in another round of emotional chess. She needed an audience. The invitation came as a group text. Family dinner, no more lies, just resolution. Sunday at 6. Mom, no apology, no tone, just strategy. Tyler forwarded it to me an hour later with a single question. You going? I stared at the screen for a long time before typing, yes, but I'm not going for her. We arrived together. Me, Tyler, Camilla. Like a united front walking into enemy territory. The house looked the same. Pristine, curated, hollow. She greeted us at the door with a smile so polished it could have cut glass. Thank you for coming, she said. Camilla didn't respond. Tyler nodded, barely. I just want peace, Mom added, ushering us in. We've all made mistakes. The table was set like a magazine spread. Candles, fine china, cloth napkins folded like origami. She'd even made her famous roast, the one she pulled out when she wanted people to feel nostalgic enough to forget. But tonight, we remembered everything. Dinner started with small talk. Stiff, polite, practiced. Then came the performance. I know things have been emotional, she began, putting down her fork. But I think we've all said and done things we regret. She looked at me. I said nothing. So I thought, let's just clear the air. No accusations, no digging up the past. Camilla leaned forward, voice calm. The past is what brought us here. Mom's smile didn't move, but her eyes sharpened. I just don't want my family torn apart. You tore it, Tyler said flatly. That was the first crack. I reached into my bag, placed a single folder on the table. I wasn't going to do this, I said, but you didn't leave me a choice. Mom stared at the folder like it was poison. This is the property deed you hid from Tyler, the bank statements showing you've been renting it out for the last 3 years, and copies of the will Grandpa signed, the one you told everyone didn't exist. Her hand twitched. The mask began to slip. You had no right. I had every right, Tyler cut in. It was my name on it. You just erased it. Camilla placed her phone on the table, unlocked, recording. I think they should also hear this, she said softly. Mom's face paled. It's a voice memo, Camilla continued, from a week ago, when you asked me how much it would take to disappear. She pressed play. Mom's voice filled the room. You're a smart girl, Camilla, and smart girls know when to walk away. Tell me what you want. A check, a job connection. Just leave quietly, for Tyler's sake. The recording ended. Silence. No one breathed. Mom's hands shook now, visibly. I was trying to protect him, she whispered. No, I said. You were protecting yourself. She stood up. I've given this family everything. I've sacrificed. I've held you all together. Tyler stood too. By lying, by stealing, by tearing down anyone you couldn't control. Her voice cracked. I am your mother. And we are your collateral, I replied. Then, something none of us expected. She sank to her knees, right there on the hardwood floor, next to the roast and the candlelight and the ghost of the family she tried to choreograph into perfection. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this." But it was already done. We left quietly. No yelling, no dramatic exit, just the sound of chairs sliding back and 3 people choosing freedom over tradition. Tyler closed the door behind him. Camilla reached for my hand, and I didn't look back. A week later, I got a text from Jonah. "Just read the story online. Didn't use your name. But anyone who knows, knows. Proud of you." I smiled. Closed the message. I wasn't proud. I was at peace. Some endings don't come with closure. They come with clarity. Sometimes the people who raise you also raise cages around you. And the hardest freedom is learning how to walk away without guilt. For years, I thought being loyal meant staying quiet. But silence isn't love. It's erasure. And choosing truth over comfort isn't betrayal. It's healing. If this story stirred something in you, maybe it's because you've been there too, caught between who you're expected to be and who you're meant to become. Have you ever had to let go of someone to protect your peace? Or found courage in the moment you finally said, "Enough"? If this video moved you or touched something real, drop a comment. Let me know where you're watching from or what part hit you hardest. And if it didn't speak to you, tell me why. I'm here to hear your story too. If this reached your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next story that just might meet you right where you are.